Well, what we know is, and we've seen evidence, when our kids get their start in preschool, their kindergarten readiness scores rank in the top 3% in the state, and they even passed nationally ranked Wyoming City Schools, which is a nice suburb in Cincinnati. So when we get the right start and we start closing those gaps, there are no barriers to learning. Well, why is that important to these careers? If we close that gap before kindergarten starts, that means more students have greater access to upper-level math and science courses later in their years in school, so they can access the careers that are going to pay 68% more. So if I ask, all of our residents, is it important to you that your child has future access to jobs that are going to pay the greatest earning potential, 68% higher? I don't think anybody would accept the answer no. So that's why this is so important. Again, being led by a group of folks that this is different. We're transforming. We're building the plane as it flies. And you know what? We're out in front of everybody else. Some people are still talking about whether they should go to the plane. Some people are still wondering if we should even drive to the airport. But I'm telling you, what we have got to get over is we need to stop talking about 21st century learning. We're 22 years into the century, for God's sakes. Let's start talking about 22nd century learning. Let's prepare to be ahead of the curve so when we're ahead, our kids are ahead. And what you're going to start hearing now from members of our team, we're ahead. We're ahead and we're going to keep moving ahead. And can I have the high school staff members that are here stand up, please? Let's give them a round of applause. Unbelievable to look at the course catalog today compared to 2013, and it does not happen without good leadership and folks willing to step up in the best interest of our kids. So we talked about it starting in preschool. Every career starts with a strong foundation in literacy, and nobody better to address what's going on. Marcy Murphy.
So as Van said, our mission at Noble Local Schools is to create a culture of continuous improvement through hope, access, and opportunities. And I found this quote that I thought was super fitting to the work that we're doing and aligns with our mission. Literacy is the jump-off point from which all life successes take flight. And we have a goal. We want 100% of our students to be proficient by the end of third grade. And why is that? Third grade has been identified as a critical checkpoint for literacy success. It's the final year where students transition from learning to read and reading to learn. Research will tell us that if students are not proficient by the time they make this transition, that they will be unable to successfully access curriculum, especially the rigorous STEM curriculum that we need them to access to be future ready. And sadly, students are also more unlikely to graduate high school, period. So that's not what we want. We want all of our students to be successful and to be future ready. Hence, we want 100% of our students proficient by the time they leave third grade. Mr. Leffingwell talked already about the preschool investment. Research will tell you that 63% of students who do not score well on our kindergarten readiness exam will not pass the third grade reading test. And what is the kindergarten readiness exam? It's what we call our launching exam, right? It's that exam that tells us that they are going to have the jump start that we want them to have. So through preschool, they're talking, they're singing, they're reading, they're writing, they're playing, but that is critical to the process of literacy and making sure they're prepared. So when we think about a learning cycle with literacy, there's three main components. We have assessment, curriculum, and teaching. Within these three components, we often ask questions. You're going to hear this routinely. Ask any teacher in the districts, what are your three questions, right? What do we want students to know, understand, and be able to do? How do you know that they've learned? And what are you going to do if they haven't? And or, rigorous STEM curriculum, what are you going to do if they reach that assessment benchmark earlier than expected? Literacy assessments, you're going to hear keywords across the district when we talk about this. The KRA, DIBELS, PASS, STAR, our third grade guarantee, EduLastic, our local assessments within the classroom. Things to remember are that we have assessments that tell us a couple things. They tell us where our students are, what our students know, and then we use those assessments to inform how we teach, what curriculum we choose, what we provide in the form of instruction for our students. And also, on another level, the professional development we provide for staff and understanding the curriculum, the needs of our student population. So when you think about the teaching component, there are 3 tiers of support. We have the core curriculum classroom support, the targeted small group, and the intensive individual. When you think about all 3 tiers, that's what our regular classroom teachers do. Our K through 3 literacy teachers teach a minimum of 120 minutes daily focused on literacy. A minimum. Oftentimes it's more than that. They teach all 3 tiers, and then they have supports for tier 1, 2, and 3 as well through our Title I program and through our special ed program. We have 2 methods of delivery. One is a pull-out method where we pull out small groups or 1 or 2 students at a time, or we flood the classrooms and we go in and support that teacher, either in whole group instruction or small group instruction. Here are the 5 essential components of literacy, what we want to make sure, the pillars, if you will, that support the work that we do to prepare them for the future, and that's our phonemic awareness. You can read phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And I think it's important to understand that through all 5 of those pillars, we must embed language and writing, and I'm going to add speaking to that as well. I wanted to share a little bit about where the money comes from for that extra support through Title, and this is Title I budget. I didn't share the IDA budget, but we also have a budget for that. But through our Title I budget, we have roughly $200,000 this year, and we spend that money on salaries and benefits primarily. It's roughly 65% of the budget. Subs, teachers, literacy tutors, literacy paras. This year, we were fortunate enough to pilot a program where we actually have 2 paras that are literacy-trained paras supporting the work that we're doing. Purchase services through professional development. We have a literacy coach this year. We were able to acquire her for 1 day. We're hoping next year to have her 2 or 3. She works with our staff. She works with me. She's helping us create a better literacy plan based on the state. She works regionally. She looks at our data. She looks at data in the surrounding area. She looks at curriculum that's taking place, who's getting the best results based on the data that they're seeing, and how can she help us get better. And supplies, obviously, that's a given through our curriculum and through our instruction, and then engagement. Things like Tonight, purchase services through our newsletter, magazines, our title compacts, parent-teacher compacts. So we are serving 118 students in grades K through 3 in our title program this year. We have 5 instructional staff members helping support that. Most generally, it's a 30 to 60-minute window. Obviously, kindergarten's our priority. They're our foundation, so we do spend more time with kindergarten. We have our literacy coach, as I shared. And the last thing I want to wrap up with, it's critical to understand that we differentiate. Our teachers differentiate, we differentiate. We differentiate the assessments that we give to get the information that we want to get. We differentiate the instruction we provide based on the assessment information we get. We differentiate the type of teaching and teachers that we choose and pick to meet the needs, not only our students, to meet the needs of our teachers, and to meet the needs of our building improvement plans. And I think I'll wrap up my portion with every student can learn, just not on the same day or in the same way. But our goal is to make sure they're all learning, and they can all learn.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, go ahead. Give her some love. So as we prepare that base and foundation, it's all about literacy, not only reading but also math. You might know that we're STEM designated, and our district is the first K-12 district in the entire state to be designated on its first attempt, K through 12. Our elementary principal, Chad Miller, you can come on up, Chad. Chad actually was the previous principal at Graham, where they had STEM designation as well. And so Chad has been really a passionate driver of integrating STEM through the elementary and middle school. And I want to be clear, STEM's not a classroom. STEM's not just when you take a class with Jarvis or in robotics or just with Randy in CAD or drafting or 3D modeling or whatever. STEM is actually a culture. We actually sometimes use the acronym to, instead of science, technology, engineering, and math, we talk about strategies that engage the mind. And it's a different way to engage kids because they're going to be engaged differently when they go into their world of work. And I say their world of work because it's going to look drastically different than ours. So, Chad, you want to share some things?
So I'm going to try and stick to 5 minutes. I promised I would. That's what I was given. So again, I believe our future is now. Dan's talked about 21st century skills and it's 2022. But our future, these guys that are sitting here, you guys in the back there, your future is now. And when I think of Noble Local, and I'm sorry, Ed, and some of you guys, I did a lot of this last night at our board presentation. But I love this quote. Somebody has to stand when other people are sitting. Somebody has to speak when other people are quiet. And that's what's happening here at Noble Local right now. You know, we keep talking about these grants and different things and these things we want to do for not just here, but for our region. And it's hard to find some people that'll stand up and some people that'll speak. We're stuck and we just don't see the importance of it. So I want to share with you some things here from just around the building. This is a Maker Lab cart, and you think, well, what's this have to do with Future Ready? But you know, it's given our kids opportunities to you know, to be creative, to do problem solving, to go through and fail. So this is a second grade class that does a lot. Fourth grade class, this group here. So I'm going to touch on these today. Dan, myself, and I don't know who else they emailed. Fourth grader asking Mr. Leffingwell, how many acres do we have? We're working on a problem. And so today I connected him with our architect, with energy optimizers and different things, and they're doing a design challenge where they want to repurpose or make our building more efficient or an area of our building to be more efficient. And these are fourth graders. And the excitement about fourth graders are, oh, he's sitting right back there. I've responded to your email. You've got all the information you need now. I didn't see you sneak in. So anyway, this was the first project they did, and you should come up here and do this presentation, Caleb. You know more about it, right? So they had to design, and this was like test run for them last week. Again, these are fourth graders. Test run, who can, now granted, these are prototypes. Test run, how can you make an efficient building? So they did their design, and then they put a thermometer in it, and then they shut it down, and it's under a heat lamp to see which one will stay the coolest. Okay, so that's building into what they're doing now. And they're blowing up my email asking about different things around the building. But they have started there's STEM Builds Ohio. It's a design challenge from across the state. And they are going to look at how they can repurpose or make our building more efficient. So they actually, I just dropped off in I'm going to call her Mrs. Danford, I apologize, but it's Mrs. Michael's room. I just dropped off all of our utility bills for our building. So they're like, how do we pay for these changes we'll make? Well, you reduce our energy footprint, and there's our money. So they've got a big challenge ahead of them, so I'm excited about that. We talked about this with our Business Advisory Council, our 3R rubric. These are kindergartners getting feedback on employability skills. I know we do it at the high school, but again, our kindergartners are starting out with this. Our preschoolers just today signed up for Jason Learning to pilot a Jason Learning module around STEM. And it's taking STEM into a play-based environment, and they're going to do some, I don't even know what they're doing yet, but it's preschool, and they're all gung-ho about and ready to go. Again, student engagement, author's purpose. Andrea and the second grade team doing things around student engagement. And while it's author's purpose, they're debating and justifying points about who's guilty, whether it's, now granted, second grade, Big Bad Wolf, or the pigs, but they're having discussions and arguments. Think of us as adults. We can't have discussions and arguments in a civilized way, but we're teaching them in second grade how to do it. Again, hands-on, and this was seventh grade. This is Mrs. Boyd's class, where they're talking about diameter and circumference, but it's all hands-on and kids problem solving. And you sit there and I watch them do this, and it's, some of them they're struggling with it, the concepts, but it's that process of failing and growing from it. Rockets, and this is like the last 4 weeks of school here. Rockets, we have kids creating rockets, and if you've seen these videos, it's pretty cool, but you know, they're out, we're launching rockets, and I'll go into our course catalog. Social emotional well-being, we know COVID has brought this to the forefront. This is a journal entry from a 8th grade Mrs. Gooley, where she's checking in on her kids. It's amazing stuff. Outdoor ed, you know, one of the things the kids want to do, and it's stuff we want them to do, but there are already some of the kids in Caleb's class are like, we need better trails. Well, that's what we want to do, so hopefully they're going to accomplish this for us. Same thing, we got trout and we got this snake. Don't ask me about the snake, but we're learning about it. Kids in 6th grade, I will say that's my son, and he's engaged in learning, and that's a challenge. Right, Cale? Connor? Cale's not the most engaged learner at times. He's probably going to kill me if he's watching this. But we've got kids doing play-by-play. This is Roman. He's been homesick with the stomach bug that's going around, or he would have been at the board meeting with me last night. But, you know, we dropped him in, and he's live on YouTube with these guys. This was at Cambridge High School, and somehow he made a 27-2 ball game sound interesting. So again, back to our courses. Our 8th graders, you know, our 8th graders are taking high school courses and are able to earn up to 2 credits through just some of our new courses. Ag, obviously, we're deep into ag. Flight and space will build into these future-ready careers. Drones, where our flight and space kids will be prepared for drones. Robotics, you know, Jarvis is taking some kids to Dallas next week, or next month. And, you know, you think about robotics there. Think of all the robotics that we deal with. The garbage trucks with the arm that swings out and picks up the trash can. That's a robotic arm. These kids are going to be prepared. They could probably take those skills they have now and go work on those garbage trucks and troubleshoot. But again, lots of things we're doing. We're going to push some of our robotics down into 3rd and 4th grade. We're fortunate. We got Mr. Leggett's, and he's already Project Lead the Way certified, so he has access to a lot of these courses that are tied to VEX. Our food and nutrition, our engineering and design classes, the coding, and really just across the building, what they're going through, the engineering and design process is, you know, I'm so excited about what we're doing. I'm, you know, as a parent, I'm excited for what my son gets to do every day. And, you know, we are, as Dan says, and I'm sure you'll hear from Justin, we're at the forefront of doing this stuff, and our kids are going to have an advantage over the majority of kids in our region, if not the state, because there's less than 100 schools in Ohio that are STEM designated. So thank you all for coming, and thanks for your support, and I appreciate it.
You know, one thing along the journey of going from good to great, you have to be comfortable being out in front. And as I sat there and listened to Chad, I wonder, what would the pandemic have been like for our families and our students in 2013 when only 30% of our kids felt like their future could be brighter? And if you talk about social emotional learning, we think about so much about how we react to it. But how about when we connect them to a hopeful, realistic career, maybe we could be on the front end and actually create hope and take away some of those social emotional needs that exist. I'll tell you what, you've heard a little bit about how we start, and I can't think of a larger transformation in our entire region than the transformation that's happened here at Shenandoah High School. And the fact that in a building once down to 160 kids, now almost at 260, more and more and more our kids choose us. And that doesn't happen without, as I mentioned earlier, a staff that's willing to do some things differently and provide a lot more opportunities than we've ever provided before. But it's truly amazing, and our kids have opportunities here that don't even exist in schools 3 and 4 times our size. So I can't say thank you enough, and with that I'll turn it over to Mr. Readiness.
So I tossed this one on here. I didn't know exactly where I would be in the presentation. Dan kind of alluded to it. We put this quote in the media center. Proud of our past, excited for your future. Excited for the kids' future. I again reiterate the fact that we do things differently here. We are on an odd bell schedule a little bit. We're on an odd and even block bell schedule, and we have all 8 periods on Friday. So it's very, very different, not typical of what you might see in a typical high school. And the staff offers over 125 semester hours. We are a branch campus of Zane State College. We offer credential programs. We are truly trying to build a resume and a toolkit for every kid that graduates from here that is unmatched around the state. And in a district of 289 and no stoplight, I think we're knocking out of the park. And truly, the teachers that we've talked about that, but at the same time, they have 6, 8, some people have 10 preps. Like, I hate to ask Jarvis for anything because he's just a cat on a hot tin roof, because there's so many people wanting the things that he's doing. And so we're hiring people in a time when people are cutting people. Think about that. What am I pointing at, Philip?
To the right.
Oh, gotcha. I'm back. Our pathways, we are building the plane as we fly it. There are schools around our area that have no pathways whatsoever in their high school. None. We actually have an ag and energy pathway, a medical health pathway, manufacturing and engineering, and the ZEP Teacher Academy, which I'm especially proud of. It allowed Cade to enter Otterbein with 37 graduate credits. It's unbelievable. So we're trying to grow our own. We're continually looking for ways to add on to our pathways and our partner programs. In the manufacturing pathway, I can say that Isaac is here in the plumbers and pathways, and right in front of Isaac's grandpa to Wyatt, and he's doing fantastic. It's unbelievable what the plumbers and pipe fitters in that manufacturing and engineering pathway have been able to do for kids. What Randy's been able to do in the welding pathway in the back hall in connection with Bicon, so that Bicon's actually taking our kids' stuff, quality checking them, and bringing it back here and hiring our kids. It's unbelievable. Medical health, Stacy Parks came to Business Advisory and said, we can't find enough certified health techs. If you can create more certified health techs, we'll hire them immediately. They won't have to have a bunch of bills, because when you go to college, the hospital or that doctor, they're going to pay for it to go back. And Lauren's teaching those classes. And I don't know where Lauren was. She's in here somewhere. I think you're having a good time. It's awesome. You got to stop back there. We got Grandma fired up, right? So you guys got to go see what those girls are doing. Today, we had littles in the room today, right? You're doing pediatric stuff. So, because I walked by and I thought, what's happening? But, and then ag and energy. The ag and energy is right there, and they know it. Ag and energy is a big deal here. Drone technology on the farm. So we're trying not only to build a farm, but we're trying to build a 21st century farm, right? And you've got to take a trip out back and see all that stuff. We got the building open from 6 to 7, right? So you can go down and see the farm and actually go through. It's not done, but you're going to go in there and go, holy smokes, what this could be and what this will be. So that's pretty cool. I need to click the link. Our business advisory, I want to talk a little bit about that. Danielle got that link in there. She's smarter than me and got it in there for me, wherever Danielle's at, right? Thank goodness. But this is Beth runs our business advisory, and Husted giving us our award.
Business Advisory Excellence. Business Advisory Excellence Awards. In addition to the council's overall star rating as an excellent designation, it is attributed to the councils with exemplary demonstration of quality practices in each of these categories. Recipients are rated by the scoring team for each category and have attained the highest rating based on all addendums submitted. Three designations are excellence in developing professional skill for future careers, excellence in building partnerships, excellence in coordinating experience. This year is rare, as we have one business advisory council that swept all three excellence awards. That's pretty special. Congratulations to the Noble Local School Business Advisory Council on doing this. This council was recognized last year, day 3, rated council, and this year Noble was unanimously rated by every member of the scoring team as a 4-star rated council, and has also been recognized for exemplifying the 3 quality practices. Some of the business partners include Noble County Chamber of Commerce, Wally's Pizza, Gulfport Energy, Expressive Graphics, AMG Vanadium. Just spent some time with them last week. They're very excited about the work they're doing with you. Mazda Consulting, Detroit Diesel, AEP, Marathon Petroleum, Zane State College, and many, many others. Noble Local embodies the 3 strategies for success: high expectations, extra help, and active engagement. Noble Local Schools has done many things to earn these awards, including helping students earn industry-recognized credentials, which is the new currency of the job market, very, very important. They are also encouraging students to participate in work-based learning. Lastly, they are working to expand their curriculum and hire more teachers to offer new courses to students, including one of my favorites, drones, the essential coding area, which I know is important in this world, cybersecurity. We can never produce enough talent in cybersecurity. Talk about job security. Cybersecurity will be forevermore an important part of our future. Agribusiness and many more. Some of these are really, really important right now in our growing economy. So congratulations again to Noble Local Schools for being recognized as the recipient of 2022 awards for excellence in developing professional skills for the future, excellence in coordinating career development experiences, and excellence in building partnerships.
Okay, so awesome job, Beth. Awesome job for our Business Advisory Council. But the reason it gets 4 stars is because it's action-oriented. Things are changing because of it. We've had the 3R rubric up there before. That came about because of our Business Advisory Council. They want a worker that is drug-free, shows up on time, able to communicate, work as a team. They're coachable. So we developed a 3R rubric that goes with our 7 habits of highly effective people, and we rate our kids in every class. And that kind of becomes a little touchy, you know. Sometimes that kid that got all A's forever maybe only gets a 1 or a 2 on the rubric in some classes, and that begins a conversation among parent and teacher. That's okay. It begins a conversation teacher to teacher. Why is that kid so good for you, Philip, but I struggle with him? Help me figure out, how do I connect that kid in my class? So we're trying to connect our kids differently beyond the grade. Our expanded offerings, obviously the farm's a big deal, right? But we have mathematic modeling and reasoning, data science foundation. So the state has finally decided that every kid does not need Algebra 2. Certain pathways dictate what they might need instead of Algebra 2. So those are 2 classes that we're piloting this year in place of Algebra 2. Mr. Miller's offering global issues. Jarvis is working on FANUC robotics, which is robotic arm technology. And I think back to when we visited the Honda plant. Randy has added pipe welding, which they got to be pretty good to get into pipe welding with Randy. And then we got 3 different ag classes with forestry and woodland ecosystems. We may be foresting some of the farm, meat science technology, and agronomic systems. So we got hay and heifers, right? So we got to have a hay team, we got to have the heifer team, right? We got that going. So that's our new offerings for next year. Student success plans we are scheduling right now. All kids are scheduling with Beth and Emma right now. So hopefully you set up that individual graduation plan, that student success plan, and you're sitting down, picking your course, picking your pathway with Beth and Emma right now. And then there's my version of all roads lead to a J.O.B. And that's what it is. I went to Gulfport with him. I'm so fortunate that I got to go, and it's changed the way we do business. We're good.
So before we leave, we have 2 critical pieces to this whole operation. Obviously, the technology to support everything that's going on, and also the finances to support it, and the finances to sustain it. And so closing out tonight will be Philip, followed by Trenda. But as Philip comes up, I pre-warned him that I was going to probably embarrass him. But when I think about all the great stuff, I have to tell you, I don't know where we'd be without this guy. He's truly an expert, the best in which I've ever worked. And thanks to him, we've really been able to move everybody faster because we've been able to support people so much faster. And you know, we talk about faster a lot, that things change faster. And we've got to be ready to keep up. You know, again, going back to 21st century learning, and we talk about it like it's a badge of honor. I want to say, dude, we're 22 years late. Like, he's not talking about that. He's talking about 22nd century, and he's ahead of the game. Wayne Gretzky once was asked, why do they call you the Great One? He said, because I skate to where the puck's going to be, and everybody else skates to where the puck's at. This is the Great One right here. So appreciate it. Philip, share with us.
Thank you. So I condensed basically K through 12 into one single slide. So it's a little busy at times, but if you look at the first little plant there as our kids are growing up, in the K4 band is a nice way for us to segment that out. We do introduce, and so I'm going to repeat a little bit what these 2 principals said, but we introduced that PBL, that problem-based learning in STEM in those younger grades, all the way down to K, pre-K. And that engineering design process, which is going to follow them all the way through, is being introduced in those classrooms. Creates those critical thinking skills, how to assess a problem, come up with solutions, implement the solution, did it work? If not, go back into the cycle and start it all over again. 3D modeling and 3D printing go hand in hand. When we first got 3D printers, we were just introducing the technology to the students, like here's what a 3D printer does, and we could download jobs and prints that somebody else did on the internet, and they could see it. And that was great, but now we've introduced 3D modeling to the students. They're creating objects in 3D in a computer-aided design program. And then they turn around and get to print that, so it goes from their mind into a piece of software, and then back out a piece of hardware, something that they could hold that was originally just a thought. And that all happens within a span of just hours, not weeks and months. Coding was mentioned in robotics. Coding, right now we have it all the way down into first grade, and we're seeing that wanting to go even further down. It's such a skill to have, even if you don't become a programmer, just the logic involved, and they're going to see it, regardless if they're a coder or not, a programmer. It's a good skill to have in your back pocket. In robotics, so VEX is currently at the high school and the middle school, and Jarvis, I don't know if it was mentioned, but the high school team went to states, and now they're going to Worlds. In May, they're going to Texas to compete against 800 other teams across the nation. So we're introducing VEX robotics all the way down into that K2 hallway. We don't have it just yet. We ordered it, and with the global shortages, those things have been on back order for quite some time. But that's there. And the nice thing about VEX is it brings coding and it matches software up with what it can do with hardware. And so those kids can see the value of that code, that it actually does something, not just on the screen, that there's an object or a goal in mind. So we use, and the little plant shows what we're doing. So we use Tinkercad code and VEX. Now those skills carry on into 5, 8, and 9, 12. I don't mention them again because my plants don't have enough leaves. From there we build on in 5.8. Chad mentioned we do have flight and space. So they're being introduced into the concepts of flight, so with actual airplanes. And with space, Mr. Leggett's does Mars rovers and the rockets. All these technologies, are growing. You see things like SpaceX and drones. We're introducing those into those middle school grades as well. We're still trying to find a good way to bring those into the lower grades, but there is some dangers involved there. Of course, you have moving propellers and whatnot. So we're still working on that. Virtual reality we kicked off in the fall in our math classes. That's super engaging. Kids love that technology. And electronics. So to jump ahead, if you look over on the last one, you'll see that Intel Inside logo. Intel's building that big factory up outside of Columbus. So we're going to be introducing electronics to those middle school kids to where they can program integrated circuits, see how that works, and that builds and builds over into, with Jarvis, into the Arduino electronics. So we use Drones in Schools isn't one, and Microbits. Those are just some companies that we use. And then in high school, I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen. We do have the Fab Lab here, and so we take everything that we've done in K-8 and we just advance it into those classes. You're diving deeper. You're an older student. You found out what you liked, what you don't like, what you're really great at, and so you can follow those 4 pathways. And tech is going to be in all 4 pathways. Tech is going to be in every single career, every single business sector, and it's only going to get stronger and stronger. If you're going to medical school and you're not embracing technology, you're not going to advance as a doctor if you're not able to embrace those skills. So we do have certifications and credentialing offered. The big thing that we're seeing right now is this. You'll see one called Unmanned Safety Institute. That's USI. We spoke to Ohio State University about that program, and that's going to go over into the ag program. That's our drone program, and there is a demand for those jobs, and those kids that can go through that program are instantly employable, along with AutoCAD and Arduino, and it's, all this builds up, so it's a building process. And Intel's just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be ancillary and other suppliers that come in alongside of Intel, and Ohio is going to be, the tech. It's going to look similar to Silicon Valley was back in the 80s and 90s. So it's an exciting time to be at Noble Local, and we're always expanding on this. This isn't set. It changes so much and so fast. We see what works and what doesn't work. If it doesn't work, we either modify it or drop it and move on and find something that does. We're inside that engineering design process ourselves. What's the problem? How can we remedy that problem? Doesn't work? No, let's start that engineering design process back around. So it's been an exciting trip, and we set ourselves up pretty good 3 or 4 years ago, because all this requires all the kids to have a computer. So we are one-to-one. And we were just talking before this presentation. It was 2 years ago, like this week, that was our last week of normal. We were prepared because we were already one-to-one when COVID hit and when we went remote. We were in a much better situation, much better way to accommodate our students with that. And so that's what I have, Dan. I know that's quick, but we're running shy.
Awesome. Thank you. So really, to do all this in a district of, counting our preschool, less than 1,200 students, offer all this at the high school with a staff fewer than 20, it's a financial juggling act, to say the least. And what people need to understand, to do it is one thing, to sustain it is another. Our sustainability is built largely upon, one, our kids staying here, choosing us, and two, other folks that want to join us. And so I shared with the board last week, if besides the times in which we live, the most fragile thing that we face for fiscal sustainability is maintaining that balance. And so, quite frankly, I can't imagine a better steward or caretaker of our money than our treasurer, Trenda Heddleson. So Trenda, your turn.
Yeah, it's a laser.
Okay.
It is confusing.
Sorry about that. So I wanted to give you, I know it's a little fuzzy, but the main point of the slide will still be visible from even way back in the back of the room. I wanted to give you a visual that lets you look at where our expenses are and where our revenue is and where our cash balance is. So starting clear back in 2019 and projecting clear forward to the year 2026. The green line is our cash balance, the blue bar is our expenses, and the red line is our revenue. And your goal every year, of course, is not to spend more money than you bring in. So I think this gives us a good snapshot of, I'm sorry, I think I told you wrong. The red line is the expenses, the blue bar is the revenue. That made it look just the opposite. So anyway, now I lost my train of thought. Two things to keep in mind. We talked with our board meeting last night, a couple of things we should be proud of. One is that we haven't brought on any new levies. Our existing levies are from 1972 and 1994. And the other thing to be proud of is that we don't have any debt on our books. So we haven't pushed any financial obligations off into our future constituents. So I think we need to be really proud of those two things. And then I also wanted to give you a visual for where we are today compared to where we forecasted we would be today. The first column that says projected is actually actual revenues plus an estimate up through February, plus an estimate for what we plan to spend for March, April, May, and June, compared to what we planned for last year. So our revenues are ahead by 1.5 million. That's favorable. And our expenditures are actually a little bit higher, but we know why that happened. And that's because of some changes in the school funding formula with open enrollment and tuition and the way things are coded. Those two variances, but the key is to come down here and look at revenue versus expenditures. And that where we stand is only a $380 variance. So we're taking that into consideration. Where we planned to be is very close. Then the next slide is a snapshot of where we were last year at this time compared to where we are this year. And a couple of keynotes to take into consideration. Our total revenue is about $1.2 million higher than we were at this point last year. And a breakdown as to why that is our tax revenue is a little bit higher, our state revenue is a little bit higher, and our other revenue is a little bit lower. Our expenditures are higher by $3 million, and that might seem alarming at first.
what happened? Why are we $3 million higher than we were at this time last year? And we know why that is too. We know that we've had salary increases and increases in benefits accordingly. We know that purchase services went up because of the way, or went down, sorry, because of the way tuition expenses are coded now. And we also know that other expenses, that $2.5 million might seem a little alarming at first to some people. But we know that we made a conscious effort to increase our transfers to the PI fund. We started doing $6 million transfers instead of $4 million transfers. So $2 million of that is our increased transfers to the PI fund. And that is to sponsor permanent improvements in the district, your capital outlay, our farm project, our finishing up our renovations here at the high school, starting some renovations over at the middle school, increased technology purchases. And then also in the other expenses, we added some air purifying systems that we're adding to all of our classrooms to make sure that our kids and our staff are all breathing healthy air. And then the last slide I'm going to share with you is one of those key performance indicators that you'll hear a lot of financial people talk about cash on hand. How many days of cash on hand do you have of cash on hand? So this slide gives you a visual of where our daily expenses are and how much cash we have on hand in terms of days. Now, a really good financial picture, you would be looking at 90 days, 100 days, even if you had 200 days. But we're fortunate enough to be able to say we've had 300, 400, 500, approaching 600 days cash on hand. So I think that that was a good slide to wrap it all up with and say how we plan to sustain these buildings, staff, programs, activities is with this financial picture.
So real quick, we can almost finish on time. I could stand here and spend the next hour or two with you because the pride that we should all take in what is happening, really the word is transformation. And as I said, we came a long way, we've got a long way to go. A couple things that she mentioned. This is a picture of the farm complex that's under construction. I would probably say 75% complete.
They gave me today, they said pretty much done in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. The biggest thing is just kind of waiting on supply chain issues and some things that were, late delivery. We are in the design phase of our transportation bus garage maintenance facility that we've tentatively planned to put across the street. But it would be ideal to possibly be able to get that off the back of our parking lot. And then obviously we started conversations actually quite some time ago about a community center and field house concept where we might bring some healthcare services to our campus, not only for our students but also for our community, and also have some additional recreational space. Obviously we have a lot of acreage. Not all of it's very usable, so it's very strategic to try to figure out where those things may go, but more information on that will be forthcoming. But those are some things that we're thinking about. And I want to leave you with this, and I'd like to finish on time. And again, I have a list of 1,000 things I'd love to share with you. And boy, it's been unbelievable, right? I mean, to think about what the people here have accomplished is just unbelievable. And so when I think about the challenge from good to great, it really just takes people that want to be great. We're not okay with just being good. Because we can't have kids that are great if we're not willing to step out and help support them in that effort. And so I just want to leave you with 3 things that are actually, that's my mom. Looks like my younger sister. I get all that. But my mom's 78. My mom picked up real estate 4 or 5 years ago. She'd never been involved with real estate. You understand that, right, Morgan? She did okay. And now she's tops in northern Atlanta and southern Tennessee. She's at the top of the heap at 78 years old. She completely reinvented herself, thinks of different ways of doing things. Her sales actually doubled during COVID, so she found workarounds to all that. She really supported the notion that COVID is a thing, not the thing. She kept the why out there, but when I talked to her and I asked her, what do you think your keys are? I think her keys are our keys. Mindset matters. During my 9 years here, I've never really pulled any punches, and I don't plan on starting to tonight. I have never been, quite frankly, at a place that has so many great things happening, yet our mindset tells us to get our magnifying glass out and find everything that's wrong. And we talked today about our strengths. In our Business Advisory Council, our kids have had strength finders, just discovering what our strengths are. And so the challenge moving forward with your mindset is, can we not focus on what's strong rather than what's wrong? And what could be the transformation that could take place if we recognize the strengths that each of us bring to the table and maximize the usefulness of that and bring that together and challenge it to keep moving forward. Every time that we've done something, we're spending ourselves into oblivion. Clearly we're not. There's a big difference between investment and expenditures. Our board has been outstanding in making very calculated investments, and we see the return on that investment. The other thing that goes along with that my mom said, what you focus on expands. If I tell you you can't do something long enough, you surely won't be able to do it. There is absolutely no reason that we can't focus on the things that matter most. And really, that really is goes right along with the mindset. How we think about things, how we look at things, how we, Chad talked about debating and with civility. How we can disagree, but and how we get there, but maybe all agree what the finish line should look like. But the mindset, what our focus is, that's really going to be critical as we move forward. And the third thing, and maybe the most important, we can never afford to take our foot off the accelerator. Because the world's not slowing down. Right? We can want it to. We can yearn for the days of yesteryear. We can talk about it. Greatest killer of hope. I'm not looking for a show of hands. But how many of you have been guilty saying to a young person, boy, I'm sure glad I'm not growing up in your world. They don't know any different. They're prepared to make the best. They're going to excel. They're going to achieve. Just because we're not comfortable living in their world doesn't mean that they are. Keep your foot on the accelerator. Keep moving forward. You have to put the mindset, the focus, to put your discomfort aside and trust the fact that we are preparing our kids for their futures, not our past. And I really think that's the key, and I really think our staff's embracing it. And hopefully you'll spend some time both at the elementary and high school today just to see how our folks are really working their tails off in an effort to best prepare our kids. So with that, I would open up any questions, comments for anybody. Hey, I really appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. I think I would be remiss to say thanks for the 9 years. Thanks for letting me serve as your superintendent. It's been wow, it's just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. So thank you.